Let's talk a little bit about motivating teams, right? So, how do you keep your team motivated when results aren't coming as fast as expected, especially when you take a look at economic climate, political climate, just everything out there. Especially I do a lot on the tech side of things, certain industries that have just not come back. And it's already like we're approaching the third year and it's still kind of dragging their feet. How do you keep your teams motivated?
Yeah, I'll give you an example first. I talked to staffing industry leaders, and we are talking exactly about this. And they put it the best way that I've heard it. It's really hard for me to keep telling them that it's going to get better when for the second year in a row they're working 30% harder for 20% less. And I thought that that was a really good way to sort of put a point on the challenge of motivating when the results aren't where any of us expected them to be. And that's certainly been the case in the staffing industry recently. I will say, I think we're still trying to figure it out. A couple things that I do think matter a lot is I think you have to really celebrate the the activities that will ultimately lead to success. And look at sort of micro win opportunities, right? When everybody's hitting quota, going past quota, like, you don't have to necessarily shine the light on the fact that, Josie just hit her activity goal. But if we're not getting to quota and somebody's hitting their activity goal, well, you better believe we should be really celebrating the heck out of it and kind of driving that forward as a part of it. And then the other thing too is that I think we can't. This is something that we learned in COVID. So, like everybody, when sort of early March, like everything shut down, there was tremendous uncertainty. We had people pause programs. They didn't know, the staffing firms that they didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what was going to happen. And so we were a small business and tight cash flow, and the entire leadership team and the entire company, we just had a very open conversation and said, look, I can't predict the future. This is None of us have ever been through anything like this. But I will tell you this, like, every time we retain an account, land a new account, are able to grow, anything like that, every time we do that, we give ourselves the benefit of having more flexibility on how we handle the things that are outside of our control. And that really resonated, and we really believed it, and it was really true. And as a leadership team and all the way down the organization, I mean, we literally every single week we were celebrating things. And then on each team, every single day, we took this mindset where we were trying to hit quarterly goals and then monthly goals. And now we said, look, we don't even have the luxury of waiting to see if we hit a month goal. Like, we have to do this week. And then if we do that, then we earn the right to do this next week. And that sense of purpose and the fact that they weren't trying to do that for me or for my co-founder. They were trying to do that for each other because it was one very tangible thing that they could do that was helping people they cared about get through a really difficult time. And so I think the more that you can really shine the light on success and shorten those timelines so that you can, really kind of reset. Hey, last week didn't go well. Great. We're already on to another week. Right. And being able to reset that on a pretty regular basis, I think, is key.
So that's such a great message because I think a lot of times what happens is I almost use the analogy that if you're on a flight and there's a lot of turbulence and the flight attendant is carrying on with her or his business and they're not phased by it, you kind of relax. You're like, okay, we're okay. Nothing's going to happen. But if I start seeing the flight attendant that's like buckling up and looks like that they're about to have a mental breakdown, I am going to be sending messages to my family that this plane is going down. It's the same thing with business and with work. If I see that leadership is still upbeat and we're not meeting our revenue targets, but they're trying to motivate the team and almost like have the to quote Ted Lasso, be a guppy. I'm not going to focus on the negativity of what I lost yesterday or how we didn't make our numbers last month. I'm going to focus on the great activity, to your point, that we're having this month. I think people will respond positively to that and they actually do work harder to try to make a difference. So it's all a matter of like the attitude.
Yeah, and I think it's a blend, Anna, because what you don't wanna be is you don't wanna be that, flight attendant who's still telling everybody everything's okay as everybody can see the mountain that we're about to run into. By the way, these analogies are not great as I'm about to hop on a flight tomorrow. So I won't go back to it again, but only because I don't want to imagine a flight going into a mountain. But the point is that there has to be realistic optimism in there, right? And there's always something to be optimistic about. There's always something to be celebrating. There's always a win. Sometimes they're smaller than others, and sometimes that one win is hidden amongst a bunch of losses. But there's always something to celebrate. There's always progress. As long as we're always getting better, as long as we are always putting forth 100% of the effort that we can, and as long as we are trying to do what's right by our clients and our employees, then I think we put ourselves in a spot where we will eventually figure out ways to win on a more regular basis to get those bigger wins and to go forward.